you're looking at the brain from the top, right? It's a superior view, okay? There's obviously a gigantic division between the hemispheres, and that space is really called the longitudinal fissure. Yep. And the thing that stands out here that's really nice, we saw this on the human brain as well, which was cool, were these little little dots and little bumps around here. It's called the arachnoid villi, right? The arachnoid villi will help to reabsorb the cerebrospinal fluid and return it back into a vein, this blue vein at the very, very top. What's that vein at the top called? Superior sagittal sinus, yeah. In 431, we'll learn a lot of sinuses in the brain. Sinuses is just a big floppy vein. Where we like to tag the sinus to, especially, is on this one. Look at how big and prominent it is, yes? You guys see it? Yeah. Okay. All right. That could be a hint. I mean, that's a good place, is my point. All right. Now, if you look at this picture too, do you guys see how there's this white layer around it? What's that white layer in general called?
The duramater.
That's a duramater, right? The tough mother. And that tough mother has different parts associated with it that are specific parts. Like the one that dives down into the longitudinal fissure is called the what? That's called the falx cerebri. Falx cerebri, okay? And then the one that divides the cerebrum from the cerebellum is called, remember it looks like a tent, right? So it's called the tentorium cerebelli. That one is clinically relevant because if a person has a brain bleed, right, epidural, subdural, intracerebral, subarachnoid bleed, any of those things, pressure on the brain can press down on the tentorium and affect specifically what cranial nerve? CN3, right? CN3 normally does pupillary constriction, but if there's loss of function on that side of the eye, what are you going to see on that particular eye?
Dilation.
Pupillary dilation. Okay, excellent. All right, so let's go back to this longitudinal fissure, and then of course there's lobes, right? Lobe, lobe, parietal, right? And then the back. If you were to peel back this lobe here, what lobe could you see that's kind of hidden? The insula, which we'll get to in a moment. Okay. All right. If I were to put a tag in the front. What is the front aspect or area called in the very front? Prefrontal cortex. Give me a couple functions associated with that. Personality, decision making, social behavior, all that stuff. Good. All right. Let's work our way back. Don't go to the red strip yet. Okay. Sounds like instructions for your parents. So right here before it, anybody remember what that area is called? Premotor. What happens at the premotor? This is where you store what?
Muscle memory.
Muscle memory, yeah. So motor programs, muscle memory is stored there. Okay, and then there's some landmarks, like we said. The valleys are called what again?
Sulcus.
Sulcus. Individual would be, or plural would be sulci, right? What are the bumps called again? Gyrus. Individual, or many would be gyri, right? What would be this specific landmark? Central sulcus. What would be this specific landmark? The one that separates, that's called the lateral, right? Lateral sulcus. All right. What if I asked you the anatomical name of this one? That's called the anatomical would be precentral gyrus. Yep. What would be the functional name? Primary motor cortex. So that's where like movement is basically like where it's like programmed. And then what would be the anatomical name for this one? Post-central gyrus. What would be the functional name of that one? Primary somatosensory area or cortex. Okay, excellent. Can you name a pathway that would end here? For touch? It's really for touch. Dorsal column ends there. The spinal thalamic pathway is in there. What pathway begins here? corticospinal. It's also called the pyramidal tract, right? So that's all happening there. So this takes care of our movement. This takes care of touch sensations. What about when something goes here, right at the very tip? What's that area called? Primary visual cortex. So that's where vision is perceived, okay? And then around it is called what? Visual association area. That's where you store what? Visual memories. Okay, now let's go to the temporal. Let's go like 3 steps up. It's like the highest gyrus. Boom, 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 up here. So if I'm like in the middle of it, at the very top, what do you want to call that specific area? Not Wernicke's, but that's your primary auditory cortex. And then around that would be your auditory association cortex. Paper just came out literally yesterday where they had people say words, okay? All right? So like they said a bunch of words, and with each word they saw the action potential pattern from that part of the temporal lobe, right? Okay? So then they thought, okay, can we have them think of that word, and can they then predict what that word is that they're about to say? And so they were successful at some of the words. So it's almost like, not quite mind reading, but you're thinking of a word, you're in your mind, you're saying it, and then they predicted what you were basically going to say. Think about the implications of this, right? For people who have lost the ability to speak, maybe they have ALS, they have paralysis of their mouth, maybe a communication mode, right? I mean, it's literally like mind-blowing what they're doing. All right, okay, let's work our way down. Go down that red strip, and then what would be that specific area there? That's your Broca's area, right? And then what is that for again? That's speech production. If you go kind of towards where like the parietal and the temporal are meeting, what would that area be? Wernicke's. And that's for what again? Language comprehension, right? Okay, good. So we did that. Let's look at this under view. This has been cut here, but there would be a bulb here, yes? Yeah. And then, so what do you want to call this thing? Olfactory tract, right? The bulb is, for some reason, been cut out, okay? And then below that, there's another X, yeah? What's the middle of the X called? Optic chiasma, okay? So that, what's happening at the optic chiasma? The optic nerves cross, right? So that things from your left visual field go to your right occipital lobe, and then vice versa, right? After the optic chiasma, what would be beyond that?
The optic
tract. There's this little stump here, and there should be a pituitary gland here, but that's been cut out as well. Then do you guys say it again? Oh no, that would be the pituitary gland that's been cut underneath. Pineal is going to be more central, okay? You guys see the 2 bumps? What are those 2 bumps?
The mammillary body?
Mama, right? Mammillary bodies. And then, I wouldn't tag it here, but these would be like the cerebral peduncles, but this would be CN3, yes? So it's kind of nice how you can see where 1 would be, where 2 is, and where 3 is, yes? Okay. I do like the eyebrows. That's called the substantia nigra, not Niagara. That's where you vacation. But what is produced, or what's the function of the substantia nigra? Produces dopamine for motor control, right? Okay. What was the disorder where there's not enough dopamine released there? Parkinson's, yes. And what kind of drug do they give these folks? Do they give them dopamine or L-dopa?
L-dopa.
Why L-dopa?
Because they can
cross the blood-brain barrier. What was the glial cell that created the blood-brain barrier?
Come on. Can I tell you what
Yes, I hope you can. It would be called the astrocytes. Okay. No? Okay. Anybody remember the phagocytic cell in the brain? Microglia. What was the cell that produced myelin in the brain? See, as a group, you're getting an A. Okay.
Yay! Let's do that.
Group test, yeah. But then I'd have to divide your percentage by 30 people, and that would be not.
That's okay.
That's okay. Like, I take that. All right, so let's keep going. We did that, substantia nigra. We did, okay, there's a model of this, but what space would this really be representing here? Lateral ventricle. And then this thing with the beak, third ventricle. And then the skinny part right here, I'd probably tag this on the model too, but let's review it. Cerebral aqueduct, excellent. This is a top view of it, right? This is probably the only place where we could tag it. What are these little openings here for the CSF to flow? Those are called lateral apertures. Yeah, like apertures is basically a fancy name for an opening. That's a cerebral aqueduct again, yes. Lateral ventricles, there's a left and a right. So the left and the right make up 1 and 2, and that's why this is the third, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't ask me which one's 1 and which one's 2. I have no idea. Okay. All right, now we're looking at this. What kind of cut has been made here? That would be a frontal or coronal. Yep. And then what do you want to call this outer layer that's darker? Yeah, you can call it cerebral cortex. It's also the gray matter, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then of course deep to that would be the white matter. And the arbor vitae specifically in the cerebellum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the cerebellum has the same like blueprint, same orientation, gray and white, but for whatever reason they called this the arbor vitae. They didn't give that a special name. Okay. So these spaces on the sides is what again? Those are the laterals, right? Because there's a left and a right. And then the CSF, the cerebrospinal fluid, will then flow down into here, which would be that would be the third. Okay. Let's do this after the break on this bigger chart. But actually, this is a good thing. What's this thing?
CN1.
CN1, give me the full name, CN1.
Olfactory nerve.
Olfactory, right? Okay, let's see this out. Ooh. So then, what kind of cut is this, you guys?
Transverse.
That would be a transverse cut, so it's like from the top, right?
Yeah.
So there is a massive white bundle that you can see here as well as here. What is that?
Connection.
Yeah, it does connect the two hemispheres. It looks like this, you guys. Look at this chart real quick. So if you cut it, did a transverse, you guys agree you'd get the front and the back, yeah? If you did a transverse, yes? Okay. So that would be called the corpus callosum, okay? All right, there's our frontal again, occipital, and then if you peel away the temporal, what lobe is that? Yeah, it's insulated, right? It's that hidden lobe, okay? And it has its own gray matter as well. And then it has some white matter that's way out on the extreme end. So what's that called? Extreme capsule. And then I like this one because a lot of sensory and motor goes through that. What's this V-shaped structure called? That'd be the internal capsule, okay? When we did our pathways that we drew out, we included the internal capsule for both, okay? And then what would be this structure that looks like, you know, kind of the wings of a butterfly both have? That is the thalamus. This big dude right there is the thalamus. What does the thalamus relay again, especially? Sensory, right? So it does a lot of sensory relaying. And then there's a bunch of structures here like that. What do they all do in general? All these are called basal ganglia. They help to regulate motor movement, right? So that includes like making it smooth, initiating, terminating movements. All right, so you can say that as a function for basically all of them. Let's name the ones that are involved with that. So what are these two here? That's called the caudate, okay, caudate nucleus. And then that's called the putamen, yeah. So you can sometimes have a date with a man.
Reaching.
Yeah,
Reaching.
really, it's almost break time. All right, caudate, putamen, yes.
Yeah.
And then what's that double strip called? Lobus pallidus, exactly. Jerome, is there a question?
Nope, you just answered it.
Okay, good. Yeah. So Hypothalamus. Let's do some of these cranial nerves that are obvious on here. But the place where I'm probably going to tag cranial nerves is the stem and then the sleepy dude. You guys know what I mean by the sleepy dude? The one you look from the top? Yeah. We'll review some models too after the break. So what does this one have to be with 3 branches, you guys? Trigeminal, right? So let's go from the front to the back. What are these? V1, V2, V3. Give me the function of V1. What does that do? Sensory from, give me some areas. Scalp, forehead, upper nose, eyes, right? Okay. And then what about V2? Sensory from upper lip, upper gum, nose, right? Teeth. Very good. And then what about V3?
Sensory or motor?
Yeah, let's do the sensory first. So what would that be? Lower jaw, tongue, lower teeth, and then motor too.
Masseter and the temporalis.
Masseter and the temporalis. Excellent. Okay. So there's the bulb that we see, and then we'll do some of these cranial nerves on the models after the break. There is this little dude hanging down. What's that?
Pituitary.
That'd be the pituitary gland. What does a pituitary gland do?
Produce hormones.
It uses a bunch of hormones. What are they?
We don't know.
431. Okay. We'll do all 9 of them. Okay. So I got to leave something for you guys for 431. Trust me, there's still a lot.
There's enough.
Okay. Yeah. Good times. Okay. This is just showing you some of these regions again, right? So like precentral gyrus, yes.
Yes.
Postcentral gyrus, central sulcus in between. And then these are just showing you some pretty colors, okay? Let's do a break, okay? 10:30, dural, epidural space. Technically, there's a space between the dura and the arachnoid. What do you want to call that space?
Subarachnoid.
Subdural.
Subdural. Subarachnoid.
What about underneath the arachnoid?
Subarachnoid.
That's the subarachnoid. And then, of course, this is the central canal, yes? Let's do that again. Let's go from the top to the superficial to deep, and we'll do layers along the way. Space?
Epidural.
Layer. What's the top, most superficial layer? Duramater. Space? Subdural. What's that layer?
Arachnoid.
Arachnoid. What's that space?
Subarachnoid.
Subarachnoid. And then what's the pink? Pink for? Pia. Okay, makes sense?
Yeah.
Remember, it's your PAD, right? Your pad around your brain and your spinal cord. All right, then we have like columns and such, okay? So what column is back here? Dorsal column, lateral column, anterior or ventral column. What pathway? Name one pathway that would go through the dorsal column. Could it be called the dorsal column pathway? Oh my gosh, yeah. Wow, yeah. It's also called the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. What?
We won't
Exactly.
do that.
Yeah.
We'll go with the first one.
Yeah, you can go with the first one.
Thank you.
What about a pathway that's over here? It could be anterolateral, spinothalamic. It could be the corticospinal. And then what about the pathway that goes through here? Corticospinal again and spinothalamic. Okay. All right. What are the cells that line the space? Ependymal cells. What's this big crack here called?
Anterior median fissure.
Ventral median fissure or anterior median fissure. Okay. Structure. Your favorite. Ventral root. Motor or sensory going through there?
Motor.
Okay, motor. Multipolar or unipolar going through there?
Multipolar.
Excellent. Structure? Dorsal root.
King.
Just dorsal root.
Oh.
Yeah. And sensory or motor?
Sensory.
Sensory. Unipolar or multipolar? Uni, right? Okay, then that bulgy thing. Dorsal root ganglion. Okay. And then if you work your way out, what? There's more branches? What's this branch in the front? Where's the branch in the back? Ventral ramus, dorsal ramus. Ventral ramus, dorsal ramus. Are these sensory, motor, or both?
Both.
Both. Are they both?
Yes.
They're both. Yeah. We'll do this later. I gotta save some stuff for the final unit. We'll do this stuff later. Okay. Okay, let's go here though. What is this nerve network? Cervical plexus, C1 through? C5. Yep. What's the one nerve that keeps your diaphragm alive? So this one going to your diaphragm, phrenic nerve. What rami does that come from? Diaphragm alive, C3, C4, C5. Staying alive. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. If this is the cervical plexus, what do you want to call this network?
Brachial plexus.
Brachial plexus, yes. C5 through T1. Yeah. Let's work our way down this one now. Oh boy, good times. There's a nerve back here that's going to your elbow extensors, arm extensors, wrist extensors. What's this one? Radial nerve, exactly. You want to know the name and the functions of those for this coming exam? You betcha. You don't want to, but it's good for you. Okay, then there's this nerve that's traveling around your thoracic cavity, and if this doesn't work, your scapula can pop out.
Wing
Ah,
scapula.
what's that nerve called? Long thoracic nerve. What does that innervate specifically?
Serratus anterior.
Serratus anterior. Yes? So we did radial, long thoracic, and then we have the M.
Median.
Okay. The M has 3 branches. There's one in the middle, and then there's one that's more lateral, the one that's more medial, yes?
Mm-hmm.
What's the one right in the middle?
Median nerve.
Median nerve. This is the one that works down your arm, and it's the one that can get compressed in what repetitive type of injury? With their wrist. Carpal tunnel syndrome, yes?
Is that how you type?
That's how clackety clack. Right. So that is the median nerve. What does that innervate? With carpal tunnels, what can happen? Really weak thumb muscles, and also does your wrist flexors. Okay? All right. So remember there was Mr. Mu, right? Mr. MRMU, yeah? Do you remember Mr. Mu at all? No? Okay, it's good we're here today. All right, so is that the median? What's this one that's going to your biceps and your brachialis? Musculocutaneous, right? Because when you're doing your muscle man pose, aren't you bending your biceps? Muscle man. No? Okay. Never mind. Okay. Sometimes I just say the jokes for me. Okay, so that's the musculocutaneous, biceps, brachialis, and then what's the one going down to your pinky? Ulnar nerve. And what's that going to? A lot of your hand muscles, right? Okay. You guys remember what that's called when you pass out and you pinch that over a bench?
Saturday night.
Saturday night palsy. Yep. Okay. So that was the what plexus again?
Brachial plexus.
C5 through?
T1.
T1, okay. And then there's one more plexus down low. Let me scoop it. It is scooched. Okay. What's this network here now?
Lumbosacral.
Lumbosacral plexus. Starts at about L1 to
6.
S4. Okay. There's a big nerve. And look at all these that you could learn. Okay. There's just so much anatomy. Anatomy is almost infinite. Okay. But let's just do this big dude.
Sciatic nerve.
Sciatic nerve. What's that can do overall?
Pain in the
Sensory and motor from the leg. Okay. We'll do some of these black and red fibers in the last unit. Good times. What's the very, very tip of the spinal cord called?
Cadus medullaris.
Conus medullaris. What's your tail fibers called?
Cauda equina.
Cauda equina. Okay, horse's tail. And then there are two areas in the spinal cord that are a little thicker than the rest. Like here, as well as here. What are these called? Cervical enlargements. Lumbosacral or the lumbar enlargements. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the mid-sag. Ready?
Ready.
Ready, Freddy? Oh, look at this discovery I made yesterday. You guys see this nerve with 3 branches down here?
Where?
Oh,
Down left?
Yeah.
C5.
What do you think that one is? Trigeminal, right? Isn't that V1, V2, V3? Isn't that a little kick in the pants there? A little bonus material? Good times. Okay.
Everything's
Could be. Yeah, that one could be a hint. Yeah. All right. So everything's a hint now. Okay. I mean, we've done a bunch of these. We did the corpus callosum earlier. Yes. What's the dividing wall between the lateral ventricles? Septum pellucidum. What will send smell info to your hippocampus? Fornix. What is this space?
Third ventricle.
Third ventricle, right? You guys see the bird, right? The beak. And it's really a structure too. What's on either side of the third ventricle? If I said the structure. Outstanding. If this is the thalamus, what would be the area just beneath it?
Hypothalamus.
Give me 3 functions in the hypothalamus. Anybody?
H2O balance.
Okay, water balance, temperature, circadian rhythm, right? Limbic, right? Homeostasis. Yeah, give me any 3. Okay, now, that's the hypothalamus. What was this crossing area here called? Optic chiasma. Yeah. Chiasm will help you spell, but it'll embarrass you if you call it that. Okay. And then what about this right here? Mammillary body. What is that associated with? Suckling, smell reflexes. Your favorite bone feature, what lives there?
Pituitary.
Pituitary gland. Anybody know what the bone feature is for fun? You'll never forget that, right? Okay, cella turcica. Back here. Oh, I do like this. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Wink, wink. What's that thing?
Pineal gland.
Pineal gland. Pineal gland, or the pineal body. What does that produce? That produces melatonin for sleep onset. Yeah, your levels are going crazy right now. Okay. In the middle of a yawn. Right. I do like these reflex centers too. What's the upper one called?
Colliculus.
Superior colliculus for visual reflexes. Inferior colliculus for auditory reflexes. That little passageway that can get pinched off is called what?
Central canal.
Cerebral
Oh.
aqueduct, right? Central canal would be down here, right? Okay. Cerebral aqueduct leads to this space. What's that space called?
Fourth ventricle.
The fourth ventricle. What encephalon would this be?
Mesencephalon.
That would be the metencephalon. Because you still have the medulla, right? The medulla is really the main thing in the, which encephalon? Myelencephalon. Myelencephalon. Versus the what encephalon here? Diencephalon. And then right in the middle, mesencephalon. Mesencephalon. And hopefully the biggest in you?
Telencephalon.
Okay, because it's really what? Tel, di, mes, met, my. Myel, right? Myel. Okay. Okay, what about this space in here with those spider webs?
Subarachnoid space.
Subarachnoid space. What function are you thinking of when if I point at the pons?
Breathing.
Yeah, respiratory, reg. Okay. Give me the 3, if you were to say the 3 top functions of this. Breathing, blood pressure, heart rate. How about a couple of reflexes? Vomit, sneeze, cough. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Betcha.
I got a good question.
Actually, check this out. I forgot one more thing, you guys. What's this thing that's the final little piece of the dura? Falx cerebelli.
Oh.
Where was the falx cerebri?
Oh, that little line is it?
Yeah, it would be the white lines. That's the superior sagittal sinus is embedded in, right? Let's go to that one. There's a chart that we haven't talked about.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my.
Same kind of dealios though, right? Got your networks. Got your sciatic nerve. Median nerve going down the middle, right? Ulnar is going to be more on the pinky side. Radial is towards the back more. That's skin. Okay.
No way.
When something touches you,
Whoa.
there is a neuron that has a nucleus pinched off to the side. What is that kind of neuron there functionally?
Unipolar.
Isn't that the sensory neuron, right? Isn't it unipolar with the nucleus pinched off to the side? Yeah, okay. Then that'll come into your brain or your spinal cord, right? Because you have skin on your face too, okay?
Hopefully.
Yeah. And then that neuron there, you guys agree that it's the in-between neuron? So functionally that is a inner neuron. Is it multipolar?
Yes.
You betcha. Okay. And then that inner neuron can then synapse with what functional neuron at the end? Motor. Is that multi?
Yes.
Same with that is multi. And then that can synapse onto a muscle. Groovy? Okay, we're good. We're that. But then, oh yeah. What are these little bulgy dudes on the either side of the spinal cord? Dorsal root ganglion. Those are cell bodies for the unipolar neurons, yes. Travel down the spinal cord and then boom, all of a sudden it's done. So what do you want to call this tip? That's called the cone, right? The conus medullaris. Beyond that, do you guys see the horse's tail coming down? If you get really close to this, you can see fibers, hopefully. Okay, so that's called the cauda equina. All right. We saw these earlier. There's the bulbs and the tracts. There's the optic nerve and the chiasma and the tract. And okay, that's good. All right, let's do some models in a few minutes. What's this network called?
Plexus?
That's your brachial plexus, right? Ram IC5 through T1. There's some branches that come off here that you want to be aware of. Okay. You got some axillary stuff going to things like your deltoid. And then after the axillary, you got Mr. Moo, okay? This first branch right there is going to go to your muscles like your biceps. So what's that one going to be? Musculocutaneous. And then this one right here is going to your triceps. What does all of your extension? What nerve would that be?
Median.
Radial. Radial, okay. So here's some more radial going to the triceps. You see it there? Okay. That would be a lot nicer, huh? And then you work your way down here. You know, probably have this opened up, perhaps.
You're gonna make me cry.
Make you cry? Okay, better to cry now than later, so.
Probably go later, don't worry.
That too, okay. So if you watch this if you follow this one, do you see how it just keeps going down the middle of your arm? What do you want to call that one?
Median.
Median nerve, right? Wrist flexors, thumb muscles. And then it just passed your funny bone. Haha. Okay? So what would that one be?
Ulnar.
Ulnar nerve, that's going to your hand muscles, okay? So take your hand, quick ulnar nerve test, and squeeze your fingers together, try to pull it apart, okay? And then you can also get a piece of paper.
You did it!
And you try to basically hold the piece of paper as tight as you can, pull it away. Okay, that's pretty strong there. Okay, so that's basically doing a bunch of your ulnar nerves. Questions on that? Does that make sense? That's
So
what
basically, this is the sign of like ventral carpal tunnel.
Carpal tunnel, you're going to be checking a lot of thumb strength. Yeah. Okay, let's switch over to. I'll help you put this away in a second. So just really quickly. Let's go for it. Space again. Epidural space versus this space. Subarachnoid versus this space. Central canal. Excellent. Okay, now let's do the layers. Ready? At the very top. This is like the periosteum. We don't care about that anymore. Bye-bye. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that layer though is
Duramater.
And then what about this one with the space? Arachnoid. And then on the spinal cord?
Piamater.
There you go. Okay, this root versus this root? Ventral versus dorsal. Okay. And then this guy has to be what? The big bulge. Dorsal root, ganglion. Sensory or motor? Sensory, right? Because that has cell bodies for sensory neurons. Let's go over this thing. These are the two, what? Rami. Okay, Rami. Ventral is going to be bigger because you're more sensitive in the front part of your body. Dorsal ramus is going to be smaller. There are branches here. We'll do that in Unit 5. Hooray! Okay. All right. That was pretty quick, actually. Remember this beautiful thing? What general layer is all this? Which mater?
Duramater.
Dura, right?
Yeah.
Dura. It's made up of 3, but here's 2 of the 3. This one here is what specific structure? Falx cerebri. Oh, you see the little tent?
Tentorium.
Tentorium, cerebelli. And then within the falx cerebri, there's that blood vessel. Ooh. What's that blood vessel at the very top?
Superior sagittal sinus.
You betcha. Okay.
What was it called?
The vein.
Oh, I said that.
Superior sagittal sinus. Okay. Now, how about let's do this.
Wait, we're not ready yet.
Not ready yet?
Okay, I'm good.
Wait, I'm not ready yet either.
Oh, that's better.
Green paper.
Okay, I'm gonna point, and then on 3, you tell me what I'm asking. Okay. Let's do function on 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, lateral eye movement. Lateral eye movement. Because what is that one? Abducens. Yes? Okay. On 3, function. 1, 2, 3. Motor for eye movement, pupillary constriction, LPS, ciliary muscle. Okay? We'll see a bunch of that in final unit 2.
We have to say all of them.
Only if you want full credit. Now,
Wait, so how are we gonna put all of that for like scan 5 on the paper?
On the
That's
little
a
baby
lot.
line.
you'll find a way.
Okay.
All
Sorry,
right.
I'll get like a
Ready? Give me the encephalon on 3. 1, 2, 3. The encephalon? Diencephalon. Yeah. Yeah, encephalon. I'm kind of purposely jumping them around because that's what the reality is. Okay. I mean, especially since we're all starting at different stations and stuff, right? Okay. Sorry, just the way it is. Yeah. So jumble up your flashcards, you know, when you're studying them, you know, and ask yourself different questions on that. All right.
On the lab, can we write down like the?
I'll give you a few minutes. So, you know how
To brain
there's
dump?
that blank space right in our answer sheet? You can just put like 1 through 12 and do your little mnemonics for the first couple minutes. Yes? Okay. You're welcome. All right, now, let's do skull exit on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hypoglossal.
Hypoglossal canal. Very good. Yeah, yeah. You'll get there. Okay. What about, let's do skull exit on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Jugular foramen.
Jugular foramen.
Actually, this is 8, which has a double to it. So that's going to be skull exit, internal auditory meatus.
I mean, yes.
7, on the other hand, has 2, doesn't it?
Yes.
It is the stylomastoid foramen and the internal auditory meatus. Okay? All right. Now, sweet Jesus. Sweet Jeebus. Okay. What about the function on 3? 1, 2, 3. Eye movement. This one's just regular eye movement. The abduced ones was lateral eye movement, right? And again, people do struggle with this one, so review your cranial nerves. It's a tough one. There's always a tough section in every unit, okay? Just the way it is. Life is. Alright. Let's do the skull exit on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Jugular foramen.
Jugular foramen. Aren't these all jugular foramen here? Boom,
Yes.
boom, and boom, right? 9, 10, 11. What if I did the brain exit on 3? 1, 2, 3. Because that would be what?
That's like
9, 10, 11, 12? Yes? And then what was metencephalon?
5,
4 through 8. 5 through 8.
5 through 8, right? 5, 6, 7, 8 are jazz one, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Okay. Ready? Freddy. Okay. Let's do, here we go. Actions or functions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you do the sensory for the 3 regions, right? Okay, we did that earlier. And then the motor would be masseter and temporalis. Okay, that's actually not as bad as you thought, maybe. Okay. All right, ready? Let's do functions on 3. 1, 2, 3. They're together. Sensory for hearing and balance. Awesome. Here's a biggie here. Functions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Sensory for the anterior 2/3 of the tongue for taste. And then motor for facial muscles, crying, right, which makes sense now. And then salivation, okay. Facial makes you want to cry, okay. All right, let's do on 3 the function. 1, 2, 3.
Accessory motor for the.
So that's going to be motor to sternocleidomastoid, trapezius. Good times. All right. Function on 3. You can take a sigh of relief now. 1, 2, 3. Sensory for vision. Yep. Function on 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, tongue movement. Yeah, motor for tongue movement. Okay. So what are the hard ones really, right? The hard ones are really like 3, 5, 7, and I'd say 9 too. So it's all the odd ones. So just take some time with those oddballs. 6 is abducens, right? I mean that one's.
It's pretty simple.
The first 5 I got 10 on. The rest, my brain was like, that's it.
Oh. Okay. So work on the remaining 12. All right. Let's do. Oh, by the way, while we're here, what lobe is this that's hidden?
Insula.
Insula. Remember the insula? Because the temporal lobe we took out, yes? Okay. I mean, these are the thalamus right here. While we're here, look at this too. What's a collective name for all
Corpora
4?
quadrigemina.
Corpora quadrigemina. Okay. Superior caliculi, yes? Inferior caliculi?
Yep.
And then this thing right here, it's looking like a little shooting star. What is that thing right there? That's the pineal body, pineal gland, okay? There's, on lizards, they have a separate eye on the top of their head. It's like their 3rd eye, and it regulates their pineal gland. Isn't that weird? Okay? And as we're going into spring, what's happening into our melatonin levels? They're actually going down because there's more sun, you should feel more awake. Some of you guys may be feeling more frisky, okay? Not old enough, that's true. Good point. Okay, do you guys notice how there's this big chunk right here?
Pons.
What's that chunk called? Middle cerebellar peduncle. What is that connected to then? Brainstem to the cerebellum. That's why it's called the cerebellar peduncle, right? If you go to the other side,
Oh, there's the pons.
this is not cerebellar. What are these two columns here?
Cerebral.
Cerebral. Peduncles, right? And then here, we did a bunch of these already, right? Okay, like cerebral aqueduct, blah, blah, blah. What's this structure here, though? Choroid plexus. Yeah. What does that produce?
Cerebral
Cerebrospinal fluid, right? Oh, okay, here we go.
Yes.
Yes! Okay. I'll point to the hole and you tell me the cranial nerves that go through it, okay?
Okay.
Oh, you better remember that.
Alright, right? Okay, go for it. Give me the numbers. Let's just do numbers for in terms of time. 9, 10, 11. Very good. And what about this one here? 1. Okay, you got to be very specific here.
5, 1.
V3. V3. Because spinosum is not really part of it. Okay, the ovale is going to be 5, 3. What about this one there? V2. V2, right? So 5, 2, 5, 3. Okay. What about this guy here? CN12, number 12. There's this one. Oh man.
Auditory.
Oh boy. CN7. Excellent. CN2. Okay. Excellent. This one you got to think about. Take your time on this. There's a bunch. Yeah. So it'd be what?
V1.
Well, let's go in order. 3, 4, V1, and 6. Yeah, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Specifically on 5, V1, right?
So if you say 5 V1, or you have to say 5?
If there's multiple, usually I'll say either name or the number on those. Okay. There's that. Okay. And then we did that. And did we? Oh, we haven't done this one. Okay. 7 and 8, right? I think we did them all, yes? Okay. All right. And then this, see, check this out. So go from here now. Hey, right? It's really the same thing, but then they have the nerves in place. No? Okay, you didn't like that. Okay, no. All right, let's do the, in terms of time, let's do the numbers again. Out of order, okay? Okay, go for it.
10.
Okay, that's gonna be 9, 10, 11, yes? Okay, so that we're gonna make this one 12. Oh, tricky do. What's that one?
3.
V3, right? V1, V2, V3, right? Okay.
V2.
Just 2, right? CN2 optic. It would be on the down side of this, on the under it. CN1, right? The brushy one, right? Okay. This and that. 5. The big chunk, right? 6. Oh boy, that's a tough one for us to tag on here. 3, and then 4 is what the?
Ew.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's not going to be tagged.
Nah, we'll do it on the stem. Okay. Okay. 9, 10, 11, right?
Yeah.
And then these two have to be 7 and 8. Yes? Okay, good. Shall we do brain slices? We're just gonna keep it coming. Keep it coming. All right, so on here we have the lobes, of course, right? Occipital, parietal, frontal, and just all the same kind of stuff. What space would that be? Fourth ventricle, between the cerebellum and the pons. And then what space is this? Third ventricle. You guys notice how there's a little meshy membrane right there? So that would be the septum, lucidum. What spaces would be on either side of that? The lateral ventricles, yep. Okay, and then you see this little C-shaped thing and then the smaller C-shaped thing. What's the bigger one? Callosum, smaller one? Fornix, pons, medulla. That's not really exciting there. And then after the medulla's got to be the spinal cord. Right? Yep. Okay. Let's do some of these other sections. Did I ever show you this one?
Yeah.
We did this one already?
No.
Well, you haven't showed it to us today, but
Should we do it?
sure.
Okay, we'll do it too. No. Max is like done. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What the heck? Space. Longitudinal fissure. You really can't appreciate the interconnectivity, right, of this structure. Corpus callosum. Lateral ventricles, yes? What's this dark little smile right there? I wish it was a little darker, actually. That's the substantia nigra. What? Yeah. You don't like that? Yeah.
I like the eyebrows better.
You like the eyebrows better? Yeah, that one's, it's not great. It's not great. Okay. So here's the thing. When you're more towards the back of the brain, you see these swirly structures. See how they're separated by a space there? Anybody remember what this does? Hippocampus for what? Yeah, short-term memory storage and retrieval. I was trying to give you a hint there, but it's okay. So short-term memory. Does this get the first blood flow to the brain or one of the last areas to get the blood?
Last.
Oh boy. So what's the first thing that goes?
Short-term
Your
memory.
memory. Isn't that sad? How could you increase flow to that though?
Exercise.
Exercise, cardiovascular stuff. Does this area still exhibit cell division?
Yes, it does.
When you're older? One of the few places, yes. So there's even hope for me. Okay. As you move, you're like, really? Okay. I heard that. Okay. As you go towards the front of your brain, you start to see the same area, but it's solidly filled in. Yeah, now it's called what? Amygdala. Amygdala. Okay. It's your rapper name. Okay, so what is that associated with? Emotional center, right? So this is your limbic brain, pleasure center, pain center, stuff like that. Okay. I don't think it's great. This would be like the internal capsule. Do you guys see that?
No.
And these would be like the basal ganglia. Yeah.
So we're not using the.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the amygdala and the hippocampi. Okay. What lobe is this though? That's not bad.
Insulin.
Yes? You guys see that? And then the temporal lobe here, yes? Because you peel it away and there it is. Okay, good. All right, stay there, hold on. Here we go. Let's go to this one.
The Klingon ship.
Yeah, it is kind of a Klingon ship, huh? Dun, 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 dun. All right.
Well, that's the old one.
All right. Yeah, more Romulan, yeah. What is this a model of? Of a space. It's like really a model of nothing, right? But if you allow it to fill in and solidify, it's your ventricles. What's everything in pink
Plexus.
And what does that all produce?
Cerebrospinal fluid.
Cerebrospinal fluid, if you want full credit. Okay. And then here are what spaces on the sides?
Lateral ventricles.
Lateral ventricle. There's the bird again.
Third ventricle.
Third ventricle. Do you guys see how there's a little bridge right there?
Verticular.
Ventricular. Yeah, you said vertical, but you corrected it. Interventricular foramen. And then slide down here.
Cerebral aqueduct.
And then into this space. Excellent. And then there's this little exit point right down the middle.
Median aperture.
Median aperture. That's a tough word, but you got it. Okay. Yeah. There's that. Oh yeah. Before I forget, let me do this one behind me. The purple. Purple is going to be on there for sure.
Oh, there we go.
That's the one we know. One you know for sure. Okay. It's basically a repeat. There's a lot of models that show the same thing. Something touches you. And then the information goes in. Keeps going. Cell body off to the side. Structural class, please.
Unipolar.
Unipolar. Functional class. Sensory or afferent. Either one. You don't have to include both, but either one. And then as you go work your way down, if this is in your brain or your spinal cord, there's that neuron again. What neuron is in between? Structurally, it's the same class as this one, right? Multipolar. So then it goes this way. Where's that? Anyone have that neuron model right in front of them? Yeah.
This one?
Actually, there's one with the neurolemma. Anyone see the one with the neurolemma?
Oh, this guy? Oh.
Yeah. That one's broken. This guy, which would be, what's our final one? Structural class?
Motor neuron.
Structural class, multi,
Multi.
right? Functional class? Motor, yeah, or efferent, right? There are some cranial nerves on here. Anterior 2/3 of the tongue. For taste, right?
Mm-hmm.
Posterior 1/3 of the tongue for taste. 9. Okay. What cranial nerve was associated with Bell's palsy?
7.
And how would they present?
Paralysis on one side.
Yeah, so paralysis, it's called sometimes hemiparesis in the face, so hem is half. Yep. Do you guys see the 3 branches? Boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
V1, V2, V3, yes? Lining your olfactory mucosa? CN1, CN2. There's some other cranial nerves. I'm not going to do that to you on here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just not very good. Although, there are these things that dump into the superior sagittal sinus. What are those?
What's that?
What are those things? They return the CSF back into whoop in there. Arachnoid villi. Yeah, arachnoid villi.
Oh,
You don't like that?
no. You're all too bad.
Yeah. All right, now this guy here. Do you guys see the things that look like Hershey Kisses that are on the dendrites?
Yeah.
What are they?
Dendrites.
These things. Yeah, synaptic knobs. Oh. Because isn't there a bunch of synapses on the dendrite? Okay.
Yeah.
So these are synaptic knobs. This region's the dendrite, yes. This region in the right here is called the body of the soma, and then the rest is the axon. Okay. What kind of channels would be found on the dendrites?
Voltage gated.
Not on the ligand gated. They could be stimulus gated. Probably some lead channels, but definitely not what? Because that's over here,
Voltage.
yes. Okay, so dendrites, you get the synapsing going on. What
channel would open if, or what would happen, an EPSP or an IPSP if you open chloride? Chloride would go in to make it more negative, so that would be an IPSP. Yeah, so chloride does inhibition. What other ion does inhibition? Potassium. What would do excitation though? Sodium. Yep. All right. What kind of summation would it be when you have multiple presynaptics firing at the same time?
Spatial summation.
Yep. But then what about one of them just started going nuts?
Temporal
And that would be
summation.
temporal, right? Okay, so nucleus, nucleolus. What are these blue granulated things? Missile bodies, which are really representing the rough ER. Missile. That's on the thing too. Yeah. Okay. What's this part right here?
Axon hillock.
Axon hillock, or the trigger zone. Why is that important? That's where the action potential starts, because that's where the voltage gated channels start, right? We work our way down, and there is this yellow layer around it. That's what?
Myelin sheath.
Myelin sheath, for what again? Insulation, as well as speeding up your APs, right? Okay. Now, if this is in the, bless you, if this is in the peripheral nervous system, what makes the myelin? What is the cell then?
Schwann
Cell, yep. Schwann cell makes the myelin, and it also makes a very important layer that I like. It's called the neurolemma. What's the function of the neurolemma? So it's going to be for repair, right? Repair and growth. You damage the axon. The neurolemma creates a little tunnel so that the axon can grow through. Okay? So in the peripheral nervous system, you can get regeneration, but in the central,
None.
not as much. Okay? Just like none. Okay? Maybe a little.
Maybe a little.
All right. So, Schwann cell, yes. Pink layer was the
Neurolemma.
neurolemma. Yellow layer was the
Myelin.
myelin. This layer's got to be the
Axon.
axon. And like we said earlier, areas without any myelin is called what again?
Noda rhambi.
Noda Ranvier. Okay. Ravioli. Around one neuron is what connective tissue layer?
Endomycete.
One would be endomycete.
Neuro.
Around the fascicle?
Perineurium.
Perineurium. Around the entire nerve?
Epineurium.
And with that, I'm dropping the pointer.
Yay!